Hello, I want to introduce the Fediverse to you all so that you get an idea what we're talking about when we're talking about the Fediverse. Fedi, what? You might ask yourselves. It's a compose of two different words put together somehow. It's with Fedi, it meant federation, so that information can flow through from different servers to different servers, and verse, I mean, it's a part of the universe, so it's meant that it's universally usable. The idea behind the Fediverse is to share information over boundaries of instances. What an instance is, we will figure out later on through my slides. And the main part of the Fediverse which I'm talking about today is the interoperability with an open standard called ActivityPub. But of course, there are other standards or protocols so that servers can talk to each other. For example, you might have heard of O-Status or Pump.io or the Diaspora Network or Matrix. They are all part of the Fediverse as well. But today we will be focusing on the ActivityPub software and ideas around there. When I talk about sharing information, that can be microblogs, text, bigger blogs, media, files, images, videos, whatever. It's about sharing information over the boundaries of instances. But you might ask yourself, why is this important? Why is Tobro giving a talk about that today? For me personally, it's the decentralization of the internet again. Over the past years, we have seen that the big corporations are offering centralized services all over the places, and they can do whatever they want with it. And that wasn't the actual intention of the internet back then. It was always the idea to have a decentralized network with many various services available where the user can choose which one to use. And that has changed a bit over the past 10 years or 15 years. And now it's time to get back the internet to us again. So one part of that is getting rid of the monopolies again. So to have a way to own our data. So with that, not a few monopolies, they should not own our data. It's at least we should have the possibility to choose who gets our data. Of course, it's not that easy. I mean, if you choose whatever instance you want to be on, they own your data at the end, but it's your choice which instance you want to choose at the end. It's also possible that we set and enforce our own rules. So each instance in the Fediverse can have different rules, different ideas, what to talk about and what's allowed, what's not allowed. And it's also up to the instance administrator to, or the instance administrator team, community to decide what rules are applied and enforced and how. It's not just one big company telling what is allowed and what. It also enables innovation. It gives a way for the community to experiment without being enforced by rules of big companies where they set their own rules and set whatever they want, what is allowed and what is not allowed. With this decentralization and this Fediverse, we can do innovation however we want. We have seen a huge growth in the Fediverse since November 2022. It has already started at the beginning of last year when there were rumors around that Elon Musk is taking over Twitter, but it really has seen a huge growth in November 22 when that actually happened. So we went straight from about 1 million active users to more than 10 million active users in just 2 months. So it's a really, really huge growth since then. There is no algorithm telling you what to read. You might have heard of what happens in the big social medias where there is an algorithm continuously telling you what you are could be interested in. So it never ends. If you are on TikTok, for example, it never ends. There is always incoming information. It's just the algorithm telling you what to read. The same applies for Facebook and Twitter and all the other big social media companies. But on the Fediverse, there is no such algorithm. You choose what you are interested to read, and depending on who you follow, you might get interesting other information which you could follow as well. So there is a very a new post from today, which I just discovered right before. So that's the John Mastodon posting that he is truly sorry that the timeline isn't filled with his posts, and he wants to meet the engineers right now. The story behind this John Mastodon is that at the beginning of this movement to the Fediverse, there was a misunderstanding of a journalist who didn't spoke too well, and people understood John Mastodon instead of Join Mastodon. So this quickly grew up to be a parody account, and it's very funny to follow this one. But if you remember what I just said, there is no algorithm who tells you what to read. You are on your own to figure out what you are interested to read. But now, how can you get started? There is a very simple step. First, you have to choose a server. There is not just one Fediverse server. So we are talking here about Mastodon. Of course, there are others. We will see that later. But for these slides, we are focusing on Mastodon. So the first thing you have to do is to choose your home or your account. So that basically is a list of many different servers available in the internet. And each of these servers have their own rules, their own community, their own ideas, what to share on this instance. And the first step is to figure out which one should be your home. There are different aspects to that. You can choose, for example, a community which you're interested in, for example, IT. Of course, there are many instances related to that topic. There are instances which are country-based. So in Switzerland, there are a few Switzerland-specific Mastodon servers, and there are many other communities around. If you have chosen your server, you will register for an account as you do. Shortly after registration, you should enable two-factor authentication, because it's not very cool if someone impersonates you and posts stuff in your name. But that's very easy done on Mastodon. It's just one click and you have two-factor authentication enabled. And then you can start reading, following, posting, checking stuff around. You can all do that in the web browser, but you can also optionally choose an app for your mobile phone or for your desktop. I personally on Android use Tusky or Tusky, however that's pronounced, but that's a very cool open source app which has a good interface and it's fun to use. If you should ever decide that the instance which you have chosen first is not the right instance for you, or the instance gets shut down or whatever, and it's relatively easy to move your social circle to another server, because Mastodon has a feature called moving accounts. That doesn't move your content, your posts you have written, but it moves your followers and your followees. So for the others, it's like they do not really see that you have changed to another place, and it just continues as before. It's just that the data you have written isn't really migrated to a new Mastodon server. That's a bit unfortunate, but that's how it is. So you might wonder what Mastodon actually is. So a little bit of history. Mastodon was started by a guy in 2016 in Germany, because he wasn't sure in which direction Twitter will be going in the future. And he was about right. I mean, a few years into the future from 2016, it turned out that it has taken a direction which isn't likable at all. So this guy has had a good nose and was starting a good project back then. Today, it's a so-called GmbH. That's something from Germany, which is a non-profit company. There are a few people working for this company, and they live solely from sponsors. So if people are using Mastodon, they would be happy if some people donate money to them. So Mastodon is by far the most used software in Fediverse today. It's not the only one. I will show you a few others later on, but I'm focusing on Mastodon because it's just, I would say 80% out there on the ActivityPub. Fediverse, it's the most used software. At the end, if you're used to Twitter, you will feel home right away on Mastodon because it has a similar look and feel and similar features. There are many subtle differences, and you will figure that out once you start using it, and you will see the differences. I now want to show you a little bit around on Mastodon. So that's why I've chosen to show you my account, how it looks like. So if you are signed into Mastodon, that's the view you will get. It's a timeline, a real timeline, not algorithmic, but time-based. So you see you see posts coming in the time they were coming in. So on the right side, you have a menu with different features. For example, the notification part, you can see what happens with your account, who and when followed you, if a post of you has been boosted. Boosting is like retweeting. It's the same, like you just reshare a post from someone else. You can also see if someone has favorited your post with a star and so on. So it's your activity timeline. You can filter and filter in very deep detail to see what's going on. If you're interested, you can also just filter for mentions. So that's a very important view for your daily usage of Mastodon. Then the Explore feature gives you some insights, what's going on. There are many ways to explore or to see posts from others which you haven't been followed to. So you can do that here. You have a local timeline available. That's all the posts from the instances you are on, from everyone. So you see it's updating now. These are the posts which are incoming in this current instance which I'm on. I'm actually on the mstdn.social instance. I've chosen that one because I liked the name at first. It's a short name, and it also has a relatively good base of community around. So you see there are a lot of posts incoming. So these are local posts, and you have a federated timeline. That there is a lot more going on, because as soon as you follow someone else from this instance, the other instance will be connected to that one, and posts will be coming in, and others see them as well. But I personally do not find this important. I do not use that view at all. It's too much noise coming in. Then there are also direct messages which are private to me, so no one else can see them despite me and the other person. You can have a list of posts you have favorited yourself, and there is something which isn't available in Twitter. That's called bookmarks, which I like a lot. So that's my, let's say, inbox to posts which I want to visit again. The difference between favorite and bookmarks is that favorites are pushed out to the other person, so the person gets notified that you have favorited their post, and bookmarks is just for your own usage. Lists is a way to combine to group people into a list of Visioneers. For example, I created a list of Visioneers. Not too many there today, but I hope that will change. So that's the main features here. What you can now also do is, if you, for example, do not like this post or do not like to get informed if a person is mentioned, or if you would like to block or filter or even report. So there are many ways to curate your timeline. You can block whole accounts, you can block hashtags, you can block names. You can even block a full domain. So if I would block the Mastodon.org domain, I would not see any posts from this domain incoming again. This can be done on my level, but also if the instance administrator of mstdn.social figures out that Mastodon.org does harmful posts which are not aligned with the policy of this network here, the whole domain could be blocked on the backend from the administrator. So it has a good amount of moderation possibilities so that you can be sure you have a good time on an instance. What I usually use what I wanted to show you as well is how a profile look like. So if I, for example, look at Adrian's, no, that was the wrong one. At Adrian's profile, you can see that he has listed some links to external websites, for example, to his personal website, and it has a green tick. And that's a very powerful feature to actually show that this is the same person. You can put a small snippet on your website, proving that you are this person, the same person, and Mastodon compares that, and if everything is all right, you get a green tick. And you own that data. There is no third party involved to do that verification. It's on your own. I think that's a very important feature. Then what I usually use is the expert view. So if we go to preferences, I can enable the advanced web interface and then save it. And at first you will be a little bit overwhelmed, but it uses the full space on your screen. You can quickly type something, you have your timeline, you have your notifications, and you have some other menu entries too, which you have in quick access. So usually I have this view open that gives me the overview which I would like to have day by day. Another important aspect of Mastodon is the search bar, which is very powerful. For example, you can search for hashtags, you can search for other users on other instances, which is an important thing. If you want to follow someone else, if I would like to follow that person, I can search for this person and I get a result, and I could now click on this icon and follow this person directly, and we would be connected to each other. Also, if you want to boost the post from someone you are not following, you can also just paste the full link to the post of another instance here. That was the wrong link. That's the demo effect. But if you get a URL to a post, you can put it into the URL and then boost it, for example. What also is important to know is that there is no full text search. So if you search for something, it doesn't do a full text search of content. And that's by design. That's a decision of the community, so that they do not want to have a full text index of everything written in the Fediverse. It's a huge controversy because there are third-party services which allow that, and they are not seen that well. Also, it also only searches known stuff on this instance. If you search for a hashtag which has never appeared on this instance which I'm on, you wouldn't find it. So that's a bit of a drawback of a decentralized internet. Things have to be connected to each other to be discoverable. If something is not connected, it isn't discoverable right away. That's it of the live demo. Let's go back to the slides. One non-fun fact of Mastodon, if you want to run it on your own, it's not so easy and it is a lot of work to do. So I'm having a big hats off of the people running the big instances of Mastodon. So it's a huge Ruby monolith, a huge Ruby on Rails application. It's very hard to scale because it needs a lot of different processes running to distribute posts, to collect posts, to collect favorites and all this stuff and make that appear right away on your timeline. It uses a Postgres database, it needs Redis, it needs Elasticsearch, it is heavily relying on mail delivery, and it even has a Node.js application, which is just one file and doesn't have anything else, and it's very important, otherwise you would not get any live updates in the web interface. So running Mastodon on your own is probably a full-time job, or at least needs a lot of your time. Let's do a quick excursus into the concepts behind. That's more the technical view. So I've talked about instances. I think it already should be clear that an instance is roughly a server. So that that's the name for a Mastodon server running somewhere or any other ActivityPub enabled server. An identity is a person or a robot or whatever account. It's just an identity, and a person can have many different identities if chosen to have so. At the end, the concepts of ActivityPub are very similar to SMTP. There is a discovery mechanism. If you want to post to someone a message, it discovers the server where to push this message to. It connects to this server and it delivers the message. And similar to SMTP, where there is a discovery phase with DNS, and afterwards the SMTP server knows where to connect to and deliver the message. So usually when two servers are exchanging messages, they are using the ActivityPub protocol, and this one is governed by the World Wide Web Consortium. They are taking care of having a well-defined standard out there. So the latest revision is from 2018, as far as I know, and it is currently being improved and iterated over. So you might see an updated version of ActivityPub somewhere in this or next year. From a client to the server, things are getting complicated. So ActivityPub has a client to server specification so that your mobile app or desktop application which wants to connect to a Mastodon server or to any other Fediverse server could use this ActivityPub protocol as well. But somehow the Mastodon uses their own API for client to server communication, and somehow all mobile clients have started to use the Mastodon API, and because other Fediverse applications want to be as usable as possible, and not for every software a new app should be engineered, they started to also support the Mastodon API for client to server, which is on one hand good, so that we have a good mobile client right out of the box. On the other hand, it's not so good because the Mastodon API is not standardized, and there is no intention to make it stable. So if Mastodon progresses, the API progresses as well, and all others have to follow. And there is no consortium or other means to make sure that this is on a good track. To actually discover other servers or instances and identities, a technology called WebFinger is used. That's somehow like SMTP figures out which other SMTP server to contact over DNS. Mastodon, or especially ActivityPub, uses WebFinger to discover another server to send messages to. So I've now talked about Mastodon a lot, but there are other ActivityPub alternatives out there. I've listed a few. For example, for microblogging, there is Takahe, which I'll be showing you later shortly. Then GNU Social is around since a long time. Pleroma is around since a long time. They are all focused on microblogging. Then there is PixelFed, which also gained a lot of traction lately. It's a photo sharing platform similar to Instagram, but also ActivityPub enabled, and you can run your own server so that you own the pictures you have taken, and you can make sure that it's on your own server. For example, there is PeerTube, of course, an alternative to YouTube, which allows for video sharing. And there are even plugins to WordPress to somehow enable WordPress to be an ActivityPub enabled instance, and a lot of others. So if you're interested to browse around, I can recommend the delightful Fediverse apps list. It has, I don't know, 50 or even 100 apps listed. And there is also Fediverse.party, which is a bit more cleaned websites to discover what Fediverse alternatives are out there for you to try out. So let's have a very quick look at how Takahe looks like, so that you have seen something different. So that's our Vision instance, which is running on the vision.social. And when that's the start page, where you also see the recent posts and stuff like that. Not that much to see, but if we log in, then we are greeted by a screen which you won't see on Mastodon. It tells you, hey, please choose your identity. And that's one of the biggest difference to Mastodon. Takahe allows you to have an account with different identities. So I can choose, I want to post as news at vision.social, or as Tobu at vision.social, or as news at social.w.ch. And even that is special to Takahe. That's not possible with Mastodon to have different domains available. ActivityPub, that's completely fine. ActivityPub supports that, but it's just a matter of implementation. And Takahe has decided that this is one of the core features. So here I can choose an identity, and after I've chosen the identity, I can start writing my text and so on. Yeah, that's how Takahe looks like. The other parts of Takahe are very similar to Mastodon. It's just that Takahe is a much younger project, much easier to operate, and it doesn't have that many features right now as Mastodon has, but it has the most important ones, and that's cool for just pushing out messages. I collected a few practical tips for you if you want to start using Mastodon. As already said before, to find and follow people, search for them, use the search field as much as possible. It helps a lot. Also, to boost a post from a different instance, use the search field. It gives you a way to boost this post afterwards. I haven't showed you that one, but content warning is a way to mark your post as probably sensible. So if you write something, you can say add a content warning, and then you can write here, that's just garbage, and then this text gets hidden on the timeline from someone else. And if the other person is interested to read that garbage, this person can decide on their own to unlock this message and to see it. Let's see if I find some. It is used relatively often. No. So some are using it to hide spoilers to something. Some are using it to hide political messages if someone is not interested to read political stuff. Some are using it, hey, please note that the following text is according to my work and not my personal or whatever, and then others can decide on themselves if they want to read it. Also, if you add an image to your post, you should write an image caption. That's a service for people who are not able to see that good or or even blind, so that the screen reader can read the text to them and tell them, hey, there is an image attached, and on this image you can see, and then the caption can be read to them. I once forgot to do that, and I had a post which gained a lot of traction, and I was very good. It didn't took too long until I was reminded, please add an image caption. So don't do the same mistake as I did. Direct messages are not a feature you will find on the web interface right away. For that, you should use this post privacy feature, where you can decide if your post is visible for everyone, is unlisted, or only for your followers. And if you want to really write a message to someone else who is not intended for anyone else, you can use the mentioned people only. So let's see if I would write a message to Adrian. How was it? Yeah, I cannot find his handle right now, but
It's Acosma at.
Oh, Acosma. Yeah, sorry, exactly. Here we are. If I would send this message and say, no, that was the wrong button, and say mention people only, it's like a direct message, from other social medias. There is no button send a direct message. It's really done this way. It took a bit time for me to figure that out. So there are subtle differences between favorites and boosts, especially for the counterpart who wrote the post. There is also some discrepancy what people are wanting to see. So choose your own, but be aware that there is a discourse in the Fediverse what to choose when. But I personally, if I put a favorite, I say, okay, it was a cool post, but I do not want to share it to my followers. But if I find a post which I found this very interesting for others to read as well, then I boost it. But there are no quote boosts like Twitter has. So on Twitter, you can retweet or retweet with a message, and that's not possible on Mastodon. But also by intention, there is some privacy issues with that, but not something I directly understand. And another important feature is that you can follow hashtags. So when I attended FOSDEM, I did not want to follow, I don't know how many hundreds of people, but I followed the FOSDEM hashtag. So I was informed about posts using that hashtags on my timeline. And when the event was over, I unfollowed the hashtag again, and it was done for me. It was very cool to see what's going on this event. Oh yeah, and posts can actually be edited. So if you did a spelling mistake, or if you want to change something on your posts, you can edit them, and it's reflected on all the other instances who have a copy of your post. So at Vision, as you have already seen, we have a Takahe instance on the vision.social. It runs on Apuyo Cloud. Why did I choose Takahe? As already said, it allows for multiple identities. So we can use an identity for news at vision.social, one for Apuyo, one, for example, for maintenance announcements or whatever. So we do not have to run many different instances or have many different accounts. It's really about identities. It's easy to run. It only needs a Postgres database and 2 pods, and that's it. It is very lightweight. It's written in Python and Django, and it's somehow the code is readable, and it just works. It has 2 features which are a bit unfortunate that they are still missing. One is post scheduling. So if you want to pre-fill posts which should be sent out, we cannot do that right now. There is no feature for that. In Mastodon, there is a post scheduling feature, so you can pre-write posts which are then posted on certain times. Also, there is currently no integration marketing tools, which would be important for us so that we can schedule posts or boost posts to different platforms today. Yeah, so if you want to learn more, I collected a list of links for you to browse around, to learn more about the Fediverse, about Mastodon, about ActivityPub. And you're invited to go through all these links and see if you can learn something new if you're interested. That's it from my side. Thanks a lot for listening. Now it's time for any questions you might have.